Welcome to Women's Association of Hilton Head Grants, Your Grants in Action. We're doing this webinar today because we really want you as members to be familiar with the way we're spending your grant money, because in some way all of your membership dues contribute partly to all of the efforts that we're talking about today. My name is Janet Porter, and we're delighted that you've chosen to join us. If this is your first Zoom webinar, let me explain how this works. Although you can see and hear me, we can actually not see and hear you like if you were in a Zoom meeting. You are actually a member of our audience. But despite that, we really want to hear from you. So if you move your cursor to either the bottom or the top of your computer screen to the toolbar, you will notice something that says chat and something that says Q&A. And you can send in a chat message or a Q&A message. And the facilitators will all see, and we'll try to ask your questions today of the people that we're going to be interviewing. So please, we want to hear from you. We find that when these webinars are interactive, they're much more interesting because you come up with questions, we never thought to ask. So now we're going to be joined by Debbie Gorski, who's the past president of WAHHI. Welcome, Debbie.
Hello.
Good to see you, Debbie. So I know you've been really excited about organizing this webinar to
Mhm.
inform our members about the impact that WAHI grants have. It really is all about impact. Like, what difference are we making? So what made you think that this was so important?
Well, I really felt last year in particular, and I do feel like it's our obligation being representatives of WAHI to make sure that our members know how their dollars are spent. So I wanted to be very transparent about that. They put a lot of money into this organization, and I know I would like to know how my money is spent. So I felt like this was important enough that, we've had meetings, general meetings where this has been a program. And, people are busy, it's hard to get to. And even this webinar, if you're not here today, I'm really excited. If you're watching this on video, um, taped, then I just think it gives you an opportunity to become even more engaged in WAHI.
Well, and Debbie, I've been involved with you with WAHI for several years now. And
Yep.
one of the things that I respect about WAHI is how much we try to stay true to the intention of the members who started WAHI over 60 years ago. So talk a little bit about that history and what they wanted the mission of us to be and how we try to stay true to that mission.
Yes, thanks, Janet. So it started about 65 years ago by a few women that decided to make Coligny Circle nicer. So they wanted to start it as kind of a garden group, and they also wanted to have some community impact. And so what they did was they focused on how can we um, make the biggest impact possible. And do you know that the original members, I think there were seven, all were required. If you wanted to join WAHI, you had to be willing to plant flowers somewhere. So the community impact part of WAHI is a significant part. So I wanted to honor that. And, we've come a long way since we're planting tulips or whatever. But it's nice to be able to, remember and honor them as well by continuing the grant tradition.
It
So,
is.
mhm.
So there's a couple different ways that we honor that obligation for
Mhm.
WAHI to provide service to the community. So we give youth service awards. So talk about that.
So each year we give the seven, well, it depends on how many students. It can vary from three to seven. Um, we give students a youth service award. So we don't give them a scholarship. It is a service award. So they not only have to have good grades, but they have to have made an impact in the community. So that is kind of parallel to what our mission statement is. So um, they just
And
have
then
to.
we have difference makers.
And difference makers, so difference makers interestingly started as an interest group, but it was very quickly one of the most popular interest groups. And so during Claudia Aller's reign, so to speak, she changed it into all members are difference makers. So just like, it's an all member event. So Difference Makers comes up with a project a month, and sometimes it's collecting toys for Christmas. It's right now is Hopeful Horizons. They're doing kitchen and bath kits that you can put together for women in need. We do food drives, back to school supplies, oyster bagging. I'm sure you all can see those every month. You'll get an email about what the project is for that month.
I wanted to mention that because that's one way. Some people think, well, I can't write a bigger check, and they think it's all about check writing. And I wanted to mention that because
Mhm.
anybody can bag oysters, right? Those difference makers events make a big difference. And then
Mhm.
finally, we give these grants to not-for-profits. So
Exactly.
just talk about the criteria. I know you have lots of applications and you vet them and pick the ones where you think you're going to have the greatest impact. So before we introduce some of the recipients,
Mhm.
talk about how they ended up getting selected.
Okay, so the selection team is made up of two people from the grants committee. That's Gina Hines and her cohort, and the president, past president, treasurer, and then two members at large. So they're just people that are interested in volunteering. So those are the people that read all of the grant applications, and it's done through the Low Country Foundation. And we have a questionnaire that we've kind of perfected over the years. We're always tweaking it, but um, one of the qualifications, they have to serve our community. So we're not doing, Georgia or anywhere else. That it has to be local. Even some of the bigger organizations like Special Olympics, that's going to be speaking shortly, it's Special Olympics Area 8. So it is our community that our dollars would go to. And then we just want to make sure that our money is going to make a dent in their their efforts. So.
Fabulous.
Mhm.
So, Debbie, do you want to mention any of the other recipients this year? Because I think there were 8 or 9, and you
Yes.
have three that we picked.
Yes. Well, so it's Marisol Health who's speaking, Hopeful Horizons, who again we do the kits for as well, Low Country Legal Volunteers, Art Center of Coastal Carolina, the Children's Center, the Boys and Girls Club of the Low Country, Foundation for Educational Excellence, and Neighborhood Outreach Connection. And sorry I had to read those, but it's a lot. Um,
Yes.
and the total was $57,000 that we gave last year. So pretty significant
Wow.
impact in our community.
Well, the other thing that we're doing by giving these grants, even though they're maybe not as large as we'd like them to be, is that we're also validating the organizations. We're kind of giving them a good housekeeping seal of approval. Because as you've mentioned, Debbie, WAHI is the largest volunteer organization on the island with our
Mhm.
1,200 members. And getting a grant from us is validation that, they're on the right track and having an impact. So I think
Yes.
that's really helpful also.
We have also added over the last year that they are doing a 6-month kind of check-in with us too. So we're also making sure that, they've all been great in the past, but we just want to make sure that, we're connecting with them on a deeper level too. So
Yeah.
that's been nice.
Well, Debbie, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're going to hear from our recipients now.
Okay,
So the
great.
first, so the first recipient we're going to hear from is James Dismond, who's the executive director of Marisol Health. And James and I know each other well since I was on the board for so long and was there when we hired him and thought he was a rock star, and he is a rock star. So, uh, so James, for those who aren't familiar, Low Country Legal Volunteers, excuse me, that was my mistake. Hospice Care of the Low Country became Marisol Health earlier this year. So tell us a little bit about Marisol Health and why the name change and what you do for people who aren't familiar with Marisol Health or the previous organization, Hospice Care of the Low Country.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for having us. We're super excited, or having me. I'm the CEO of Marisol Health, formerly Hospice Care of the Low Country, and we did just go through a brand change, and it was to be more representative of the all-inclusive services that we provide in the end of life, palliative care, and grief care. And frankly, the word hospice was a barrier for many people to accept our services. And so we're just super excited to be well represented with our sunflower and to be more inviting for people to accept our services. And we've been around for 43 years in the local community, started at a kitchen table on Hilton Head Island from neighbors wanting to help neighbors at the end of life. And today we have grown from those six or seven volunteers to an organization of 50 staff members and 138 volunteers providing care in the palliative care, hospice, and grief sector.
So, first of all, I just want to say those people whose shoulders you stand on, who were so helpful in founding it, it was an all volunteer organization for many years, which people don't realize before, like the first nurse was hired. But now, I understand you care for almost 100 patients a day on average in hospice care. Is that correct?
Yeah, on hospice care, we're up to over 100 per day, and on palliative care, we're up to 150. So 250 patients per day now.
Wow, wow. What an impact. And actually hospice Mirasol Health was founded when it was founded 43 years ago. It was the first hospice organization on the island. There are now other hospices that are for profit, but we're still the only not for profit, in south of as we say, south of the Broad. So terrific. So the focus of your grant application to WAHI was on supporting caregivers. So talk about why you chose that as your focus.
Well, the way that we do home care, it really evolves around the patient, but also the caregiver. In order to have high quality outcomes for the patient, the caregiver really needs to be involved and established into that care model. And so my team and I really started brainstorming on how we could help support education to caregivers in our community because we feel it is the next crisis our healthcare industry is going to experience as people are aging. There's a new term that we say inside Marisol Health, and that's elder orphans, people who don't have support to be cared for at home. And we are that support, but we want to provide as much education as possible. And so when this grant opportunity came available from WAHI, we knew that the caregiver series was hopefully something that they would get behind. And it's merely the sole purpose is to provide education, but more importantly, let caregivers know there's other caregivers like them that they can band together and have a network of support to understand what's happening. Because caregiving to me is one of the hardest, most difficult jobs you can ever have. And there's things and emotions that come with that. And I'm going to share a testimonial today that I cried earlier on the phone with the person giving it to me because it's exactly the success we wanted to come out of the series. And we've only had one. We still have three more series to go before the end of the year.
And I attended the first one, and there were about 60 people there. Is that what was there? I
Correct.
didn't count. About
Yeah,
60
60.
people there. I'm anxious to hear your testimonial.
So I tried to put it in my words and I decided not to because it's pretty powerful. But when I was speaking with her today, she said, when I walked into the first Empowering Caregivers series, I was running on empty. Years of caring for my husband with Alzheimer's had left me drained and unsure how much longer I could keep going. I have not shared my own deep struggles with my closest friends out of fear of judgment. But that day, surrounded by others who understood my struggles, something changed. As I listened to stories of strength and hope, I realized I wasn't alone and that taking care of myself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. I walked out lighter, carrying a truth I'll never forget. And then she underlined and bolded this. When caregivers are cared for, we find the strength to keep loving and showing up with heart.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Cold
gosh.
chills.
Yeah, yeah, terrific. And I having been there myself and seen the sense in the room, of the fact that we could all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You really got a sense that a lot of people walked out of that room not being drained, but being filled with love to go back to, challenging situations. So thank you so much, James. We really appreciate it. And I do want to do one plug. You provide the largest grief services on the island for those who are grieving, and the services are free.
Yes.
And a lot of people think that, hospice care ends when, the loved one dies, but you provide grief support for months and years afterwards to people. So it's a much needed service. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
And so now it's my pleasure to introduce Kathy Kramer from Special Olympics. And Kathy is the area director. I think we're area 8, is that right,
Yeah,
Kathy?
we're Area 8 Special Olympics. There's 16
Yes.
areas in the state, and we cover all of Beaufort, Jasper, Hampton, and Collington County.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the way I think everybody's familiar with Special Olympics because
Yeah,
it's such a worthwhile organization and probably many of our members are donors. But talk about how that plays out locally.
right. So 8 years ago, we really got started, and we had 140 athletes in Beaufort. Now, today, we have over 600 athletes in our area. And on our calendar, if you go look at it on our website, we have sports every single day of the week.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, give me an example this week. What would the sports be that you would
Um,
have?
we have horseback riding for our little ones, so the young children, with Heroes on Horseback on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. We also had bowling on the Marine Air Station, on Monday. Next week, we start bowling at Station 300. That's your grant. And we have athletes on Wednesday and Thursday coming in and bowling at the bowling alley.
Well, that feeds right into talk about the grant you applied for and what it went. I know that it went for bowling, so talk about that experience.
Well, the grant was pivotal because what we were trying to do was work on their physical capabilities, but also their also mental health. So people don't realize through sports how you can work on people's mental health. And that's something that my story is kind of about that I'm going to tell you about my testimonial. So would
So,
you like me to get into that? Because it's so wonderful.
yes, please do, Kathy.
Okay, so we have bowling, and this young man from Hilton Head Elementary School, his name is Cole. He came to the big bowling tournament last year, and he got in the door, and there was lots and lots of sounds. And poor Cole like put his hands over his ears and he couldn't take the sound. He ran straight out of the building and back onto his bus, and his parents had to come get him. So this year we had an idea. The parents helped with, the staff helped with it, the teachers helped with us, and Special Olympics helped. And we got him to come 15 minutes early to every single practice before anyone else was there so that he could feel comfortable. People would roll the bowling ball down the lane so he could hear the sounds and he could be ready. And so the day of the big tournament, we brought him in an hour early. His parents brought him in, they sat down next to him. They watched all the other 300 athletes walk into the bowling alley, and guess what Cole did?
He
He
walked in.
stayed, he bowled. His parents got to cheer for him. His friends got to cheer for him. The typical people that came to the bowling alley, everyone from the community was there, and we were all cheering for Cole because he bowled with everybody. And that's part of like mental health, that he got the idea, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can make it through this. Yes, I can be part of the community. And at the end, his parents were like in tears because Cole was a star for the day. And that's what we want for all of our athletes here in Beaufort. So I just want to keep on showing off. Hilton Head Elementary School goes. Michael C. Riley goes. H.E. McCracken, Bluffton High School, Hilton Head Middle School, Hilton Head High School, May River High School. There was 301 bowlers that you affected through the grant you gave us.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I'm so impressed that you increased the number of athletes from 140 to over 600. What incredible growth.
Well,
Congratulations.
it's crazy. People will actually call us up who live in other parts of the country and they'll go, we're considering moving to this area, but we have a special needs person in our lives. And I go, but there's no but. There's plenty here on Hilton Head. We support our community. There's so many wonderful groups that help special needs people on Hilton Head that we can welcome all people to this area.
And, Kathy James mentioned how many volunteers Mirasol Health has. I'm assuming that everything you do is possible because of your incredible volunteer base.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Next week, the 16th through the 18th, we are having the National Special Olympics tennis tournament and pickleball tournament on Hilton Head. And we had to accrue over 400 volunteers to make it happen.
Wait a minute, the National Special Olympics is coming here
It's
next
been here
week?
for 25 years. A gentleman that lives in Hilton Head Plantation, his name is Myron Meister. He started it all those years ago. We
Oh
have the
my God.
best young retired people here that want to make change. It's literally amazing. You can know on Hilton Head Island anything's possible because we have the best people that come to our community.
So, Kathy, is your tennis tournament at Hilton Head in Hilton Head Plantation, or is it a bunch of plantations?
Okay, so the tennis is at Spring Lake in Hilton Head Plantation, and then the pickleball's in Port Royal.
Wow, wow.
Hmm.
And you'll have 300 athletes participate in that, you think?
Yeah, yes, and they're from all over the country.
Oh my gosh, how
Hmm.
terrific that is. 400 volunteers. And I think a lot of times when people do move here and they are retired, they're looking for a way to give back.
Right.
Sometimes people have more limited means and say, I can't write a check. But we are rich with not-for-profits. And I tell people when they move here, find a not-for-profit that feeds your soul and call them up and say, how can you volunteer?
Yeah.
You could do that at Mirasol Health. You can do that for, it Special Olympics. You can do it for
Oh,
any number of organizations.
absolutely.
Something, reading to kids at the library. I mean, you could do
Yeah.
something. So could you
And
be more specific
hmm
about what the dollars are used for?
yes.
Specifically about bowling alley
Yep.
rental, for example. One of our members is
Absolutely.
asking that question, Kathy.
Yeah. So we use the money for the rental of the bowling alley, and that's very expensive. And everyone gets to bowl 6 times before they come to the competition. That's how many times everyone has to train before they do a competition. So
Okay.
so they're at the bowling alley. There's bowling on Wednesdays. I mistake. It was Friday. So it's Wednesdays and Fridays, and a group comes in at 10 a.m. and it's like 60 people. They leave, and then another group comes in. So we're booked. We have so many people doing it. Also, we have wheelchair people. So guess what? The Women's Association helps us buy special ramps that
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
child
I've seen
and
that.
the adult can hold the bowling ball on the ramp and let go of it, and it slides down and strike
How
pins
how
down.
fantastic.
I know it's
Thank
fun.
you for Thank you for everything you're doing for special needs. What a difference you're making. I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce Stacy Floyd, who's a development and outreach director at Memory Matters, an organization that like the two previous recipients probably is not new to many people. But Stacy, tell us a little bit about Memory Matters because, I'm a big fan of Memory Matters and it's such a special organization started by local volunteers, just like James said, about Marisol Hell.
Yes, how is everybody? Thank you for having us tonight. Yeah, we started in 1997 at a church here in Hilton Head when they realized that caregivers needed support, and the individuals that were experiencing cognitive decline needed stimulation, activities, and engaging environment. So they created Memory Matters, which has grown into the building we have at Hilton Head now. And then in Bluffton, we have an office. That's where I'm at right now. But most of us know us for adult day respite programming. So we have an adult day respite program that provides stimulating activities, everything from music therapy, art therapy, yoga, exercise. We provide lunch every day and snacks for the participants. And that's 5 days a week for 6 hours at our Hilton Head location. And then we've partnered with St. Gregory the Great in Bluffton, and we offer that program at their St. Andrew's Chapel twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays now. And the same thing, it's just a little shortened version of the program because since it's not a licensed building and we're borrowing space, we can only go the 3.5 hours. But we've added lunch to that. So right now we've worked with Sip and Cow, and they bring over lunch for us for those participants. And we do the same activities, just a little bit of a shortened day. We've partnered with Palmetto Breeze Transit, and you wouldn't believe it. I was writing a grant the other day, and I asked, how many people are riding? The last time I wrote a grant for fee assistance, it was 5. And now there's 11 participants riding Palmetto Breeze to come to programs from Sun City, Margaritaville, other locations, all the way to Hilton Head and to our Bluffton programs. So we're very excited to be able to expand services in Beaufort County. And beginning in January, we're actually partnering with St. Peter's Church and the Low Country Outreach Center to add a day of respite in Beaufort. So that'll be something new. And we've already started offering some of our education programs there this fall to help, make it a little easier for folks that, it's a long way to travel from different parts of our county. So we want to be accessible to everybody. We also
you do incredible education program. One of the ones that I went to was at Hilton Head Beach and Tennis, and it was standing room only in the room, and you had great speakers talking about, how to have a healthy brain, and your education of the community is such an asset.
We've been very fortunate to have a sponsor to promote our speaker series each year. And we do 4 sessions, and it's focused on different topics, everything from having neurologists. This year, we had a neurologist from the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. We had a neurologist from our Novant Health hospital here. We also had legal experts. And then just yesterday was our final session. We had a gentleman, Sam Simon, who has dementia. And he came with his wife, and he puts on a kind of a one-man play of his journey from when he first began to notice something was off, and then how they went through the diagnosis and the challenges with the neurologist, and the fact that there was not a lot of support, and just it was very inspirational and pivotal. And we are going to have that recorded. So if somebody's interested in seeing that, let us know. But it was really moving and a different perspective. We've brought in a lot of people to help the caregivers and to help, from the professional standpoint, but never from the person who's experiencing it. It was really interesting to hear, what they're feeling and thinking when those moments happen where they're confused and they're uncomfortable and they, kind of get lost in that moment, and then they kind of come back and they're, so it was very interesting. So we do a lot of community education, a lot of outreach. Debbie Anderson, you've probably heard her speak before, does the Brain Boosters series, which is for folks who want to learn about healthy living and things they can do for their brain right now. But we also offer an early memory loss class. So when this gentleman was talking, the first diagnosis is often mild cognitive impairment. And you're like, okay. And my mother-in-law was diagnosed with this. And then that mild cognitive impairment is kind of a relief. but really it's a progressive disease. And so now it's Alzheimer's. But when they first are diagnosed, they need something, but they're not quite ready for respite care. They don't need to be in that 6-hour program, but because they're still driving, they're still out in the community, they're still going to restaurants and active and involved, but they do need some kind of like an exercise class for your brain. So we have our connections class. It's a 2-hour program. We meet once a week. We have it twice on Hilton Head, once in Bluffton at St. Gregory. But they come in and they do skills and coping. They learn that they're not alone. They meet friends, they socialize. But it's specifically done to exercise their brain and get them to thinking and working, so that they maintain the level they're at longer. And then most recently, we're getting ready to introduce a pilot program called Reconnections, which will bridge that connections program to the adult day respite program. Because not everybody is ready, and this happened with my mother-in-law, not quite ready to graduate from connections directly to that respite program, because they're still aware that there's something, that they know they have challenges, they're aware, they're not ready for that transition. So this will be a 3-hour program that's designed so that those activities that they do in the connections can become frustrating as the disease progresses. And when we start to see that, we're talking to the family and letting them know it might be time to transition into this next class, which would be a bridge to respite care. So that's coming up starting in January. And then, of course, caregiver support, respite, we have support groups, we have counseling, we have people that are involved. We do have a couple of virtual programs, Fridays for caregivers. For those caregivers that can't leave their loved one at home, they can jump online once a month, and we have different professionals talking about different topics for that. We have a book club. We do a lot of workshops and outreach, and then the classes and community talks that we talked about. And then the free memory screening. So we encourage everybody, just like you get your eyes examined, to partake in one of the free memory screenings that we do all over the area. People are walking in here to this office. They actually had their first walk-in at the Debbie's volunteering and partnering with the Bluffton Jasper Volunteers in Medicine Clinic. And she's out there in the Bluffton office and the Ridgeland Clinic once a month. And yesterday she had her first walk-in, unrelated to the clinic, but had heard we're there and came in for their free memory screening. So we're just trying to reach the underserved, spread out our services. We have 10 employees, 12 employees, 3 of them are part-time and all women. So we're all trying to reach all these places all over the area, and fill the need for the folks that are experiencing cognitive decline and Alzheimer's.
Stacy, I've told this story before. I was on the board of AARP, and we were doing a deep dive on the brain and memory support. And I came and kind of did a deep dive on Memory Matters. And I was so impressed that I invited the executive director at that time to come nationally to the national board and speak about the services of Memory Matters, because I thought the array of services you offered was so impressive and such an incredible example of what volunteers can do. So let's talk about the grant, because you wrote a grant for some unique intergenerational programming. So talk a little bit about that.
So something that was lost during COVID was that connection to the community, connection to children in particular, because everybody was wearing masks, we were doing virtual, and we sort of lost those connections with the teachers and the different groups that were coming in before that. So as we've built back, just like we had to build back our volunteer base, we've had to build back these connections with the schools, Boys and Girls Club, and other organizations. So recently, the first day of school was a half day. So I had spoken to my daughter earlier about what would she like to do if she was to come over and do something for the participants. And she got her best friend who's homeschooled, and they decided to do an ice cream social. And then Macy had gone to our theater camp this summer, and she learned a lot of songs, Broadway songs. Many of them were ones that the participants would remember and know, such as The Sound of Music and Do Re Mi. So these girls bought the supplies, planned the decorations, set everything up, served everything, brought it to the program, and then performed their songs. And then the participants sang along, they were laughing, they were cutting up with them, and it was just something to see. So from the mom's perspective, I'm looking at the children and seeing them learn what a value this is to give back to our seniors, to people who may have some cognitive decline, but who can understand music, can understand connection. friendship and enjoy seeing the youth today. But after we spoke the other day when we were doing our dress rehearsal, I reached out to the program director that was there that day, and I said, have you heard anything else about it? Was there anything that came out of it that you want me to know? And she shared, and I'll read this little section, but she said that one of our participants, Alice, felt a particularly deep connection. During the performance, she said, wrong one. Hold on to that one for a second. Sorry. One participant still talks about the visit from the girls weeks later, sharing how the girls coming to perform was so sweet and how the memory continues to bring a smile back to her face. And she asked when they're coming back. And when I got the girls in the car when we left that day, they asked when they could come back. So we're already planning again to come back and do something else for the holidays when they have their next half day, when I can get them both there before the program is over. And then we had just recently 18 second graders come from Hilton Head Christian Academy and sing along with the participants. The music was led by the music teacher, who selected interactive and familiar songs that the participants would recognize. They were engaged and smiling with joy as they listened to the children sing. So I asked Michelle, who was there at that program that day, how did the participants react? What stood out to you? And she said, one of the participants, Alice, felt a deep connection during the performance. She said, I used to do this all the time where I worked. And she was a teacher. So she began reminiscing about her time working with children as a teacher. You could see her face light up with joy, and it was clear that it was a meaningful connection for her, reminding her of what she did for her career all those years and how she did the same thing that they were doing for the seniors now in the group. So it is a full circle. It truly is. And we couldn't do it without grant dollars. This helps us buy supplies and activities and crafts and refreshments and draws them in. And we're even looking at maybe helping some of the teachers that may have issues with transportation, using that to help them get to our center, because we find challenges, but now the school's back in, we're starting to pick up and more groups are interested in coming. So we're real excited to see where we continue to go.
What a terrific idea and what great testimonial. I shared with you, Stacy, that a couple of years ago, I brought some statewide officials from AARP, the state executive director, the state president, to Memory Matters to visit. They were going to be on the island to give a check to a not-for-profit. And we came over there and we were in the art room. And all of a sudden we heard this singing in the main room and this really deep, deep voice leading this singing. And they were all singing, I Lost My Thrill on Blueberry Hill. And all of them knew all the words. I mean, there was no bouncing ball like there used to be. I mean, they didn't need any help. They knew all the words. It really touched, all of our hearts that were there. So thank you so much for everything you're doing for the community. We're so lucky to live in a place where we have such incredible resources for those who are having memory issues. So thank you very much, Stacy.
Thank you.
And then Debbie, I'd like you to come back on to join me for a few minutes because we want to talk about what people who've heard today can do. I mean, how can they get more involved in WAHHI or get more involved in the organizations we've given grants to?
A few things. So be sure to, of course, check your emails for the Difference Maker projects that are monthly, as I said. You can also go to the website and see under grants what grants have been given. And then we can get you connected to who you need to connect with to volunteer for those organizations. Boys and Girls Club, for example, are always looking for readers for the kids. So if you're interested in that, that's one way. And then if that doesn't satisfy you, then you can always contact the Low Country Foundation because there are so many other organizations that also need help. So whatever you're interested in putting your time and efforts, there's something out there for you.
Right. And Gina Hines, who leads our foundation efforts, says that different maker projects allow members to try on an organization to see if they'd like to volunteer without making a commitment first. It's like a short visit and you can become familiar. So that's all. I also want to say Linda Armstrong just said, terrific program. Thanks to all of you who planned and executed this webinar. Gina also mentioned the Community Foundation of the Low Country has a drop-down menu of volunteer opportunities on their website also. So, and I want to say, when I came here, and this has happened to everybody, I won't name the organization, but I went to an organization and kind of said, hi, I'm here, don't you want me to help you? And they kind of didn't get the message. So then I went to the formal volunteer program and got involved, and I ended up being chair of the board.
Of
So,
course.
if at first you raise your hand and say, please notice me, I'm a real asset, and they don't really appreciate you, don't give up. I mean, if you want to give, all these organizations need help. And so, Debbie, I want to thank you for spending all this time with us today. I want
Well,
to
Janet,
mention
I
to
know.
everybody that we do a
Wait,
recording of this. Pardon
Janet,
me?
let me just say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to thank you because your passion for this and your ability to bring all of this together is unparalleled. You're in a class of your own. So thank you for taking such the ball with the the bull by the horns and really going with this. So I really appreciate that you have the same passion I do for informing our members and doing the best we can for everybody. So
Yeah, we're
that wasn't
kindred.
planned, but I wanted to make sure that you were
That
recognized.
wasn't on the script.
It wasn't, but I don't care. I'm still
But
going
but
to say
we're
thank
kindred spirits. We're kindred spirits. I
you.
want to
Yeah.
mention that one of the things, Debbie, that we've learned from the author series is a huge number of people watch our videos afterwards.
Right.
And so we've recorded this webinar, and you can watch it anytime you want at your leisure. It'll be posted by tomorrow on the WAHHI website. And we recommend it for those of you who are watching it today to recommend it to your friends as an opportunity, because we want people to understand the impact their grants are their money is going to make a difference in this community. And as you heard, for example, 600 people who participating in bowling, hundreds of patients at hospice care, hundreds of patients at Memory Matters. I mean, and today we just featured 3 of the many organizations that got grants. So we want members to appreciate WAHI does a terrific job connecting women from each other, and many of us have met our best friends through WAHI. But WAHI also makes a big difference in this community, and we want you to know that. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you all.